How Japan's most boring brand is quietly destroying Zara and H&M's fashion empire. The Uniqlo story. Channel introduction. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is your go-to space for building long-term wealth and living a life you are genuinely proud of. Because we believe one thing above everything else here. Your health is your most important form of wealth, and your financial intelligence is what protects and grows everything else. So today, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating business case studies you are going to come across this year. Video opening. Alright guys, I want to start with a comparison that is going to feel a little obvious at first, and then completely blow your mind by the end. Picture this. You walk into a mall. One store is selling a plain, basic white t-shirt for about $25. Right next to it, another store is selling what looks like the exact same t-shirt for about $10. Same basic shape, same minimalist look, same category of clothing. Which store do you think is selling more? If you said the cheaper one, I completely understand. That is what I would have guessed too, before I went deep into the research on this company. Because the answer is actually the $25 t-shirt store, by a massive margin. And the company selling that boring, overpriced basic t-shirt is Uniqlo, a Japanese apparel brand that most Americans have seen in malls, but probably have not thought much about. But here's why you should be paying very close attention to Uniqlo, not just as a potential place to shop, but as one of the greatest business strategy case studies of the past 2 decades. Uniqlo's revenue per store is double what H&M earns per store. Their operating margins are more than double H&M's. Their customer repeat purchase rate is 73%. And this so-called slow, boring, minimalist company has quietly grown into a $100 billion global empire, making its founder Tadashi Yanai the richest person in Japan. Uniqlo is now the world's second largest apparel retailer after Zara, bigger than H&M, and they absolutely crushed Gap along the way. And here is the wildest part. They did all of this by completely ignoring every rule in the fashion industry playbook. So today, I am going to break down exactly how Uniqlo pulled this off, chapter by chapter. And at the end, I am going to show you what you can actually steal from their strategy for your own business or career. Because the lessons here are not just about clothing, they are about building something that genuinely lasts. Let us get into it. Chapter 1. The SBA model. How doing everything yourself changes the math completely. The fashion industry has one golden rule, one that companies like Zara and H&M have built their entire empires around. Speed is everything. Get trends from the runway to the rack as fast as humanly possible. Zara can spot a look at Paris Fashion Week and have copies hanging in their stores within 15 days. H&M carries upward of 20,000 different products at any given time, giving every type of customer something exciting to reach for. Every major fashion retailer follows this logic. Fast is winning, slow is dying. And then there's Uniqlo, doing the complete opposite with zero apologies. Uniqlo takes a full 12 months to develop a single product. While Zara is cranking out 24 new collections per year, Uniqlo is still in the lab working on one item, and their total product catalog sits at around just 1,000 SKUs, compared to Zara's 12,000 and H&M's 20,000. When Uniqlo does make a product, they manufacture over 1 million units of that single item. Now here's where most people get confused. They think, wait, if you are only making 1,000 different products in a world of fast-changing trends, is not that incredibly risky? And that is exactly the question that leads to understanding their SBA model, which stands for Specialty Store Retailer of Private Label Apparel. The SBA model works like this. Uniqlo designs everything completely in-house instead of relying on outside designers or trend forecasters. They then launch a small number of distinct designs, but offer each one across a massive range of colors and sizes. This allows them to place enormous bulk orders with fabric suppliers, negotiating discounts that competitors simply cannot match. They control the entire supply chain from design to manufacturing to retail, with zero middlemen eating into their margins. The result? Uniqlo's operating margin sits at approximately 16%. H&M's is around 7.4%. Uniqlo is making more than double the profit per dollar of revenue, with far fewer products. They are literally doing less and winning more. And here's the part that makes this model nearly impossible to copy. Because Uniqlo manufactures in such massive quantities, they can work with the world's best fabric suppliers at an industrial scale. That relationship unlocks a level of fabric technology that nobody else in fast fashion can access, which leads us directly into the next chapter. Chapter 2. Heat Tech and Aerism. When a clothing company starts thinking like Apple. Let me say something that might sound strange at first. Uniqlo is not a fashion company. It is a technology company that happens to make clothing. And this distinction is the single most important thing to understand about why their competitors cannot catch them. While Zara is hiring fashion designers, attending fashion weeks, and tracking Instagram influencers to predict next season's color palette, Uniqlo is doing something completely different. Their researchers are in laboratories, looking at individual threads and fabric samples under microscopes, testing performance properties at a material science level. And they are incredibly serious about this investment. Uniqlo has a 20-year exclusive partnership with Toray Industries, Japan's largest chemical fiber manufacturer. The annual transaction value of this partnership is roughly $750 million, all of it going into R&D and fabric development. What has come out of this partnership? The two most iconic product technologies in modern apparel, Heat Tech and Aerism. Heat Tech took 10 years to develop. Uniqlo and Toray ran 10,000 separate prototype tests before arriving at a fabric that works the way Heat Tech works. Here is what it does. It absorbs the moisture that your body naturally releases and converts it into heat. Think of your body as a power plant that constantly releases waste heat. Heat Tech is essentially a recycler for that energy, keeping you warmer without any added bulk or weight. No battery, no electric heating element, just physics and engineering applied at the textile level. When Heat Tech launched in 2003, it sold 1.5 million units in its first season. By 2012, that figure was 130 million units per year. By 2022, cumulative total sales had crossed 1.5 billion units. In Japan, 99% of people know what Heat Tech is. That is Apple-level brand awareness for an undershirt technology. Think about that for a moment. Aerism is the summer counterpart. Traditional cotton absorbs sweat and holds it against your skin, which is uncomfortable and often leads to odor. Aerism fabric contains microtubes inspired by the airflow systems used in Japan's famous bullet trains. Instead of absorbing sweat, Aerism transports it away from the skin and evaporates it rapidly. You stay dry, cool, and comfortable even in humid summer heat. Both technologies are fully patented. Competitors cannot simply copy them. Even if a rival company decided today to invest in developing something similar, they would need 20 years of dedicated R&D, specialized manufacturing equipment that does not exist anywhere else, and a long-term fabric partner willing to commit at this scale. Fast fashion companies are structurally incapable of making that investment because they need fast returns. They cannot afford decade-long development timelines. This is the moat. This is the thing that keeps Uniqlo's position genuinely defensible over the long term. Not their logo, not their marketing, not their store design, their technology. Chapter 3. The name was a typo, and what that tells you about Uniqlo's culture. Alright, I want to pause on the product strategy for a moment and tell you a story that perfectly captures the culture and philosophy that runs through Uniqlo at every level. When Tadashi and I was registering his brand in Hong Kong, the intended name was Unique Clothing Warehouse. The trademark clerk was filling out the registration paperwork by hand, and in what became one of the most consequential clerical errors in retail history, the clerk wrote Q instead of C. The name came back as Uniqlo instead of Uniqlo. 6 months later, when the official trademark certificate arrived, and I looked at it, noticed the typo, and after a moment's thought, said simply, "This actually looks more distinctive. Keep it and move on." That decision, made in about 60 seconds over a spelling mistake, gave a $100 billion company its name. Now I am sharing this story not because it is a funny anecdote, though it is. I am sharing it because it reveals something fundamental about how Uniqlo operates. Normal companies in that situation would panic. There would be meetings, emergency calls, consultants brought in, brand strategists debating the implications, paperwork refiled, and weeks of organizational energy spent undoing a clerk's mistake. Uniqlo accepted the imperfection, found a value in it, and moved forward. That ability to accept failure, extract a lesson, and keep moving is not just a personality quirk of Tadashi and I. It is a structured, systematized part of how the entire company operates. Every single Uniqlo employee carries a pocket-sized card listing 23 management principles. Every one of those 23 principles was derived directly from a failure the company experienced. They literally turned their losses into operating instructions. Yanai even titled his autobiography, "One Win, 9 Losses," reflecting his personal philosophy that 90% of what you attempt will fail, and that is completely acceptable as long as you extract the learning from each failure and build better systems because of it. This matters for you, whether you are building a business, navigating a career, or managing investments. The companies and people who build lasting wealth are not the ones who avoid failure. They are the ones who process failure faster and more systematically than everyone else around them. Chapter 4. The Failure Tour. UK Disaster, US Wipeout, and what each loss bought them. Speaking of failure, let us talk about Yanai's specific failures in detail, because this is where the real strategic education lives. After scaling his business successfully across Japan, Yanai decided to take Uniqlo international. In 2001, he targeted the United Kingdom. This seemed like a logical move. The UK is a mature, sophisticated retail market with fashion-forward consumers and strong international brand appetite. He opened 21 stores in 18 months. Within a year, 16 of them were closed. The financial loss was approximately £20 million. What went wrong? Yanai later diagnosed it precisely. In the UK expansion, he hired a British CEO and allowed the company to adopt a British management structure. That structure was highly compartmentalized. Area managers, store managers, and inventory management teams operated in separate silos, with almost no cross-communication or real-time information sharing. In Japan, Uniqlo had always operated on a flat management model where every department connected with every other department on a daily basis, and problems got solved at the ground level immediately. The hierarchical British structure killed that speed and responsiveness entirely. Lesson learned. After the UK, Yanai tried the United States in 2005. This went even worse. Americans had zero reason to trust an unknown Japanese clothing brand they had never heard of. There was no story, no credibility, and no hook. The launch failed completely. Then in 2014, feeling more confident after building up Uniqlo's global flagship strategy, Yanai attempted to expand into American suburbs, opening 17 stores outside major city centers in a single push. Within 1 year, all 17 stores failed. That loss totaled $135 million. 3 separate, major international failures. Most founders and most companies would either quit or become so risk-averse they would stop trying entirely. Yanai did neither. Instead, he extracted a specific, precise lesson from each failure. The UK failure taught him that localization of management culture is not optional. After that experience, he implemented a permanent, non-negotiable rule that every country head at Uniqlo, in every market globally, must be Japanese. No exceptions. He does not impose Japanese culture on the customer. He maintains Japanese operational culture internally because that flat, communicative, detail-obsessed way of working is foundational to the model. The first US failure taught him that brand awareness must be built before broad expansion is attempted. You have to give people a reason to trust you before you ask them to buy from you in unfamiliar settings. The second US failure taught him that flagship visibility in premium, high-traffic locations matters enormously. A brand like Uniqlo cannot build awareness through quiet presence in secondary markets. You need to be loud and visible in the primary place first, and let the reputation ripple outward from there. And here's the payoff. Every international failure Uniqlo experienced in the early 2000s directly informed the precision with which they entered markets later. These losses were not just setbacks. They were research expenses that bought them a strategic roadmap that no competitor could purchase. Chapter 5. The Death Spiral. Why every fast fashion brand is slowly destroying itself. Now let us zoom out and look at the broader fashion industry, because understanding the structural problem that everyone else is running into explains exactly why Uniqlo's model is so dangerous to its competitors. There's a cycle that plays out in fast fashion, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It works like this. A fashion brand bets on a trend. Sometimes the trend lands perfectly and sells through. But trends are inherently unpredictable. Sometimes the colors they chose are wrong, or the fit is off, or the style peaks 2 weeks before their inventory arrives, or a celebrity influences the market in an unexpected direction. When that happens, the warehouse fills up with unsold product, which is called dead stock. Dead stock is the single most destructive force in the fashion retail business, because when a brand cannot sell its inventory at full price, it has one option: a clearance sale. That sale destroys their margins, which hits their cash flow, which panics their investors. To recover, leadership comes under pressure to take bigger risks next season to chase margin back up. Bigger bets lead to more dead stock when they miss. More dead stock leads to bigger clearance sales, and the spiral tightens with every rotation. Who has experienced this? H&M has. Zara has. Gap has experienced it so severely that they have been slowly losing relevance for over a decade. And Forever 21 went completely bankrupt inside the spiral, a brand that once seemed unstoppable. Uniqlo structurally cannot fall into this trap, and the reason is their low SKU model. With only 1,000 products compared to competitors who carry between 15,000 and 25,000 products, Uniqlo has dramatically fewer ways to be wrong. When you only bet on 1,000 things, and you have made each of those bets based on fundamental utility rather than trend prediction, your failure rate is low. With a low failure rate, you have minimal dead stock. With minimal dead stock, you never need clearance sales. Without clearance sales, your margins stay stable. With stable margins, your investors stay calm. With calm investors, you can invest strategically rather than reactively. Uniqlo almost never discounts. If you have been to one of their stores, you know this. Their prices barely move. That stability is not stubbornness. It is a structural outcome of building a model designed to eliminate dead stock as a category. The other concept that makes this work is what Uniqlo calls lifewear, rather than fashion. Fashion is inherently unpredictable because it is emotion-driven and trend-dependent. Lifewear is inherently predictable because it is utility-driven and need-based. People will always need a warm inner layer for winter. People will always need a breathable t-shirt for summer. People will always need a well-fitted pair of pants for the office that transitions to a dinner out. These needs do not change season to season. And predictability, as Yanai says, is what enables scalability. Chapter 6. The AI Spy. How Uniqlo watches you from the second you walk in. Here is something most Uniqlo shoppers do not know is happening. From the moment you walk into a Uniqlo store, you are being observed, not by security cameras tracking for theft, by artificial intelligence systems tracking your movement, your attention, and your behavior at every point in the store. Uniqlo deploys heat mapping AI throughout their retail locations. This technology monitors which areas of the store cause customers to slow down, which shelves they reach for, which products they pick up and examine but put back, which sections they move through quickly without pausing, and which displays they completely ignore. All of that behavioral data is fed into an algorithm that continuously adjusts the store layout. The best-selling color options for a given season get moved into the highest traffic zones. New arrivals are placed in the spots where footfall peaks. Products that are receiving low attention get moved to eye-level positioning to test whether visibility is the issue. Every single table, shelf, folding display, and mannequin placement in a Uniqlo store is informed by real movement data from thousands of actual customer interactions. The result is that the physical experience of browsing a Uniqlo store is optimized with the same level of intentionality that a great website applies to its user interface. More attention, more try-ons, more purchases per visit, and because the layout updates based on live data rather than a manager's intuition, the optimization never stops improving. This is another place where Uniqlo's tech company identity shows up in what looks like a retail clothing operation. They are not just selling you a t-shirt. They are continuously learning what gets you to stop, look, touch, and buy, and they are applying that learning in real time. Chapter 7. The Psychology of Boring. Why neutral colors and clean fits are winning. I want to spend a moment on something that is easy to overlook: because it seems obvious on the surface, but is actually a deeply sophisticated insight into consumer psychology. Fashion brands, at their core, sell emotions. They sell the excitement of something new, the validation of a recognizable logo, the thrill of being seen wearing what is culturally current. That emotional transaction works, but it has a shelf life. The excitement of a trendy piece fades the moment the trend moves on, and then you are left with a closet full of stuff that feels dated even though it is barely worn. Uniqlo sells something fundamentally different. They do not sell emotion. They sell behavior. Specifically, they encourage the behavior of projecting quiet competence and confidence without effort. Think about the people who consistently choose neutral colors, clean silhouettes, and well-made basics. They are not trying to blend in. They are choosing not to compete on the surface level of fashion. They want to look put together in the boardroom and at a restaurant on the same day without changing. They want clothes that communicate reliability and maturity rather than trend awareness. They want to spend less cognitive energy on what to wear in the morning and more cognitive energy on things that actually matter to them. This is a specific mindset, and it skews toward a particular type of American consumer: the professional who is done proving things through labels, the entrepreneur who values function over flash, the person who has figured out that dressing well does not mean dressing loudly. When the economy gets uncertain, as it did during the 2008 financial crisis and again during COVID, this mindset actually expands. People naturally shift away from conspicuous consumption and toward reliability signaling. A quietly excellent basic t-shirt becomes more appealing precisely because it projects competence without excess. Uniqlo's aesthetic is built entirely around this psychology. No loud logos, no experimental silhouettes, neutral color palettes that work in every context, clean, unfussy fits that flatter broadly. This is not an accident or a design limitation. It is a precise answer to a deep human need that fashion brands routinely ignore because they are too focused on the customer who wants to make a statement. Clarity beats chaos, and Uniqlo has built a $100 billion business on that insight. Chapter 8: The Value Math That Changes Everything. Cost per wear versus sticker price. Let me walk you through the specific economic argument that is converting American consumers, because it is elegant and it completely reframes how most people think about clothing costs. A typical trendy t-shirt from a fast fashion brand costs somewhere between $10 and $20. It looks good. It fits the current moment. Most people, if they are being honest, wear it maybe 15 to 20 times before the color starts fading, the fabric gets rough, or the shape distorts from repeated washing. At $20 and 20 wears, your cost per wear is $1. A Uniqlo t-shirt costs about $25. It looks clean and unflashy, but the fabric technology and manufacturing quality mean it stays in wearable condition for 2 to 3 years of regular use. People genuinely wear Uniqlo basics 200 to 300 times before they retire them. At $25 and 250 wears, your cost per wear drops to 10 cents. 10 cents per wear versus $1 per wear. The Uniqlo shirt is technically 10 times cheaper on a cost-per-use basis, even though its sticker price is higher. And once a consumer does this math, consciously or intuitively, the perception flips. The expensive option becomes the economically intelligent one. This is exactly why Uniqlo's 73% repeat purchase rate is not driven by discounts or loyalty points or promotional pressure. It is driven by genuine customer satisfaction. People buy once, experience the quality, run the math, and come back. No manipulation needed. That is the rarest thing in retail. Not a customer who was tricked into returning. A customer who genuinely wants to return. That is the foundation of a sustainable business, and it is nearly impossible to build it through the fast fashion model. Chapter 9: What you can actually steal from Uniqlo's playbook. Alright, we have covered a lot of ground, but the whole point of understanding Uniqlo is not just to admire what they built. It is to extract principles you can apply, whether you are building a business, developing a career, or making investment decisions. Here are the 5 things you can take from Uniqlo's strategy and use right now. Number 1. Find what everyone in your industry is doing. Then figure out what the intelligent opposite looks like. The entire fashion industry was looking in the same direction. Trends, speed, Variety, novelty. Nobody was looking at the customer, who was tired of all of that. Uniqlo looked at that customer and built a $100 billion empire. What is everyone in your field chasing right now? And who is being ignored in the process? Number 2, stop adding. Start subtracting. Every business instinct says add more features, add more products, add more options, add more content, add more complexity. Uniqlo went from 20,000 potential SKUs to 1,000 and doubled their margins in the process. Subtraction is a strategy. What can you remove from your business, your offering, or your workflow that would actually make everything else stronger? Number 3, systematize your failures. Do not just survive them. United did not just endure the UK disaster and the 2 US failures. He extracted precise, actionable lessons from each one, codified those lessons into 23 management principles, printed them on a card that every employee carries, and used them to build a global expansion strategy that actually worked. Failure is only useful if you process it deliberately. What is your system for learning from things that go wrong? Number 4, build your position in the most visible place first, not the most comfortable place. Uniqlo failed repeatedly when they tried to enter new markets through suburban locations or secondary cities. They succeeded when they committed to flagship stores in the most prominent possible locations and let the visibility do the work. In business, in personal branding, in career positioning, being loud and excellent in one important place beats being quietly present in 10 unimportant ones. Number 5, invest in something your competitors cannot replicate. Heat tech took a decade and 10,000 prototypes to develop. Arism required a 20-year partnership with a specialized manufacturer. These are assets that cannot be bought or copied because they required a time commitment that no competitor can go back and make. In your own field, what is the equivalent of a 20-year R&D investment? What could you build over a long time horizon that would become genuinely impossible to replicate? Summary: the story of Uniqlo is ultimately the story of what happens when a company refuses to compete on the terms everyone else has accepted as given. Every rule in the fashion industry pointed towards speed, variety, trend chasing, and rapid market saturation. Tadashi and I looked at those rules, did the intelligent opposite on every single one, and built the world's second largest apparel retailer in the process. By developing patented fabric technologies through decades of patient R&D, keeping their product catalog radically narrow, eliminating the dead stock death spiral that is slowly destroying their competitors, selling utility and permanence instead of trend and novelty, pricing for long-term loyalty rather than short-term impulse, and processing failure as systematically as they process their supply chain. Uniqlo created a model that is not just successful, but structurally defensible. The real lesson here is not about fashion. It is about the wealth-building power of building something people genuinely need, engineering it at a level nobody else will commit to, and then staying patient while the compounding does its work. End credits and sign off. Alright guys, that is everything I have got for you today on the Uniqlo story. I hope this one genuinely shifted the way you think, not just about retail or fashion, but about what it means to build something that lasts in any industry. Here's the challenge I want to leave you with. Write down one obvious rule in your industry or your field. Then write down its intelligent opposite. Drop that in the comments below. I read every single one, and I want to see what you come up with. If this video gave you something valuable today, please hit that like button. It really does help this channel reach more people who are serious about understanding business and building wealth. And if you are not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that right now, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Share this one with someone you know who is building a business or thinking about entrepreneurship. This kind of strategic thinking is exactly what separates businesses that quietly dominate from the ones that chase trends and burn out. Remember, real wealth is built slowly, intentionally, and with a foundation that holds under pressure. That is true for your finances, your health, and the businesses you build or invest in. I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.